This is Special Chronicles, giving respect and a voice to people with special needs.
I shudder thinking how the world can be so cruel. Lend my voice to those who can't. It's time we try, it's time we care, it's time we stand. It starts with a voice.
Welcome to the Special Chronicles podcast. My name is Daniel Smikowski. I'm the founder and host of Special Chronicles, a former Southern Shriver Global Messenger and a service ambassador at United Airlines. Our website, specialchronicles.com. To follow Special Chronicles on socials, subscribe to our newsletter, find the show notes, listen to previous episodes and series, specialchronicles.com. This week on the Special Chronicles podcast series, a recap of Turin 2025 and our Unified at Work series. Our guests are Carly and John from United Airlines Bridge Disability Business Resource Group to talk about their experience at the recent Special Olympics World and Winter Games in Turin 2025. Please put your virtual hands together as we welcome John and Carly on Special Chronicles. Welcome.
Hello.
And I know, Carly, I think when I ran into you a week ago, you said that it's finally time to make your appearance.
I'm so excited. I'm so happy to be here, Daniel.
Awesome. And so, yeah, I've gotten to know both of you from being on the Bridge BRG board over the past few years. And so, Carly and John, thank you so much for joining us today on the program. To start off, can you share your connection to our disability community?
Sir, would you like me to start?
Yeah.
I'll go ahead. All right. Well, as you know, we're both part of United's Bridge Business Resource Group. Bridge is the BRG for accessibility. So we're focused on inclusion and the culture of the company being inclusive for individuals of all abilities. My connection to it goes back a little bit earlier in my day job, we call it. What I do other than Bridge for United is part of our government affairs team, and got involved with a negotiated rulemaking that the transportation department was doing on a few accessibility topics. And this was really the first time I had much exposure to, really what we do in this space at all. And the company wasn't really that focused on it at the time. This has been, close to 10 years ago already. I think it was really early after I joined United. Was a really eye-opening experience. I learned a lot about accessibility, a lot about what we, the road ahead of us in some ways, which we've done a lot in the time since then. But the government's focus on it had really kind of gotten me focused on making sure that the company is in the right place too, and trying to stay, even ahead of it, making sure that, the best way to sort of work with the government is to be already doing the stuff that they think we should be doing. And so I've made it a big part of my mission to really try to advance that within United. And so within the last year and a half, joined Bridge, have a little bit of a connection to accessibility in my own since then too, because I've since then developed an autoimmune form of rheumatoid arthritis that affects my mobility. I take some very good medication, and it keeps me pretty on track. But I haven't had to navigate the airport in a wheelchair before, and I know what that's like. So puts a little bit of a different lens around accessibility for me.
Awesome. And Carly?
Yeah. Daniel, as you know, our time began before my time at United. I've been involved with Special Olympics Illinois for years and years. I grew up volunteering for them, and then I joined their Young Professionals Board, and now I'm on their Marketing and Communications Committee. So when I joined United and people got word of my involvement with them, they introduced me to Bridge, saying this is the perfect opportunity where all your worlds are colliding. And Bridge has really given me the opportunity to help drive that mission forward of inclusivity at United and continue my work with Special Olympics. So it's been a really, really wonderful opportunity.
Awesome. Yeah, it's. I'm grateful that we have John and Carly, that we've connected over the years with Bridge. And can you both share a little bit about how, and there's probably not that much, but that you can say about this, but maybe from both of your perspectives, or hearing other speakers like our Special Olympics chairman Tim Shriver, hearing him speak. Can you share a little bit about how United Airlines first became involved with Special Olympics and what motivated this partnership?
Yeah, I think that actually predates our time certainly my time at United. But I know we've been long-term partners with them, and it's a partnership that's very important to us, and we continue to grow. And so it was really such an opportunity to be able to join Special Olympics out in Turin at the Winter Games, and to be immersed with athletes and their families, and to really hear not only how the United partnership is beneficial to them and see that in action, but just how Special Olympics has impacted each of their lives personally. And so it's something that's near and dear to us.
Yeah. In fact, you mentioned Tim Shriver. We heard him tell a little bit of the story at the Global Youth Leadership Summit's introduction, talking about how he approached United with the idea being that with our name, we have to be about unity. So with a name like United, it seemed like it was the perfect fit for working to develop the relationship with Special Olympics. And it has been. I remember, early on, again, not really being involved with it, but the partnership was rolled out at our Connections Leadership Conference, and has really been growing since then. I think that was before we had SOSAs, obviously, and the way that the partnership has developed since then has just really been great to be part of.
Yeah, and just like you both, the partnership with United Airlines and Special Olympics even predates my employment at United as well. It's a good transition, what you said, John, and we'll move into inclusive employment and community engagement, which is not something that our world on Bridge deals with on a daily basis, but helps to advocate for and champion the work that other departments are doing. What has been the reaction from both employees and customers to inclusion of Special Olympics athletes like myself, the SOSAs, the service ambassadors in the workplace, and how do you ensure that the workplace is truly welcoming for people of all abilities? I'll quickly just add on. I'm constantly hearing from coworkers about the impact that we're making. I know that there was one customer service agent in Houston that had I think it was on Teams or some comment had said, it might have been a social media comment, but said that we SOSAs are the missing piece to United. I know just last week, when the middle of the week when we had all the storms in Chicago, a coworker was talking with my direct manager about how helpful I am every day at work. And so what's been the reaction that you both have seen of inclusion of us Special Olympics athletes, us service ambassadors? And Yeah.
I think it's more of what you were kind of remarking that customer had brought up. I mean, we hear incredible things about just how much joy, really, our solicitors bring to their jobs. The whole thing is so much more, engaging for everybody when people are, loving what they're doing. And we know that our SOSAs really enjoy being at the airport and interacting with our customers. And customers see that. I think it can be a stressful thing to travel. And anytime, somebody maybe catches you a little off guard and isn't what you were expecting and delivers the answers you're looking for with a smile, that's the type of experience that we can't provide any other way. It's really important.
Yeah, and I just have to say, you are all such an inspiration. When you walk in O'Hare, it's a stressful experience to some travelers, and to see your smiling faces and have you ready and willing to help out and get folks where they need to go is such a game changer. I see all the comments on social media of how big of a difference that makes for some people. And then I think employee-wise, it's, again, just such an inspiration to see the work that you guys do. And I heard from Special Olympics athletes out in Turin that were learning about the SOSA program to them really open their eyes into just all the possibilities that are ahead of them. And they were eager to learn more about the program and love to hear all the great stuff that you're doing.
Yeah, it's always, I've grown up for myself, and I'm sure a lot of others with intellectual disabilities, a job in aviation, working for a major airline was not something that I thought that we thought was possible. It's not something that a lot of job coaches or special education teachers even give us. But now, thanks to this partnership, thanks to the SOS Ambassador Program, that we're able to educate other special Olympics athletes, others in the community about what is possible. Beyond hiring athletes, how else does United encourage the employees to engage with the Special Olympics mission? Can you give us some examples of employee-led initiatives? Like I know one is the unified leadership, the inclusive leadership training that Special Olympics has done with United. I know I co-led one of them, and am told I'll be co-leading another few this year. Don't know when, but I know that's one.
They already
thing
got you on the hook, right?
No, I know. That's one that I know has been a big impact among employees. But beyond hiring practices, what else does United, or what has United done?
Yeah, I think the town halls and the events that Bridge hosts are really eye-opening for some, and also provide a very welcoming environment for people to talk about their own disabilities, or if they're a caretaker, the disability of a family member or a friend. And it really provides them a space to share that story and to hear from others, and make them feel that they're not alone in this. We've gotten really great feedback from our recent events, that we've just built such a community within United for folks.
And events like those are really part of Bridge's mission as a whole, which is about bringing an inclusive culture to the company. So I think that's really a big part of how we make sure that it's a living sort of thing within what we do every day, is having groups that just represent, that are out showing that we're about like we talked about the company being united, and our mission being about connecting people and uniting the world. It's about all people, and we have a space for everyone, and this is the way that we show that, and that just becomes it's like a spark in the culture, and it really takes off, and it makes accessibility part of people's everyday thinking rather than the afterthought that it has often been, and something that you have to go back and try to include because it wasn't really part of the culture, and it wasn't part of the thinking that people just bring to what they do every day. We're looking to change that and making a difference in that by just representing in the culture what we're all about.
Awesome. I love that. And speaking of that, all people, as you both know, I think our disability community is, I think there's over 1 billion people with disabilities across the globe. And I don't have the exact numbers in front of me right now, but somebody can fact check for us. But since the disability community is the largest community, it makes sense that we'll encourage an inclusive culture, not just for employees, but for the customers, for the passengers that fly with.
Right. I mean, we hear often that there are people who would be customers and want to travel and want to fly, but either have not had a good experience in the past or are a little bit concerned that they would not have a good experience traveling. And a lot of our work is really about trying to meet their needs and to show them that you can travel with us, and we're going to make that happen and figure out what it takes to be as accessible as possible, and be in the business of making travel something anybody can do.
Absolutely. Awesome. And I think a point that's brought up, I know that we've talked about quite a bit, is when you make things more accessible and inclusive for some, you're making it more accessible and inclusive for all. So we're helping everyone when we make these changes, and when we train our employees on how to be more inclusive in the workplace. That's really important, not just for this community, but for everybody.
Awesome. And speaking of training, to introduce just a little bit more about the work that the Bridge Business Resource Group champions and advocates for, we'll take a quick break, because if it wasn't for our sponsors and supporters, we wouldn't be able to keep the microphone plugged in, and the website and podcast and video hosting that it takes. It's free to listen and watch, but it does cost money to keep the podcast going. And so with that, this episode is brought to you by United Airlines Bridge Business Resource Group, connecting people of all abilities, including hiring Special Olympics athletes like myself as employees. Learn more on United's commitment to disability inclusion for employment and travel at specialchronicles.com/united. That's specialchronicles.com/united. And with that, and for those of you watching the video, you both probably recognize some of those images on that that was on the screen. And in fact, I had to update the picture in first when I think someone from the graphics team at United had made that unified at work image. It was wearing a mask because it was during the pandemic, but I had to update it to the new the from the BRG summit, the new headshot. And so nice. with inclusion being such a core value at United, how do we ensure that these processes are not just theoretical, but actually integrated into the day-to-day experiences of both employees and customers?
Yeah, I think the building the culture that we were talking about before the break is a big part of that, and making it so that it's not something that people have to necessarily think about. It's not really even something that ideally needs a lot of discussion. It's just how we are. And so you have to start in small ways. And, that's the good thing about a group like Bridge or a business resource group at a company like United in general. They're really led by employees for employees, and anyone can join. So it's, there's a little bit of self-selection with people who want to make a difference, being the ones who sign up and, get interested in these roles. And, it's about just building a cadence of things that are demonstrating accessibility, demonstrating inclusion, by leading by example and not necessarily having to preach about it or making it something that seems like a big task or something that somebody has to purposely think about. We want to really build it into our culture, and we do that through organizations like ours.
Awesome.
Absolutely. And I will say, because we've created such a steady drumbeat of events, like our town halls, or when we have speakers come in and teach us how to be more inclusive in the workplace, it's an always on conversation. We're not just talking about it in October for National Disability Employment Awareness Month. It's something that's ongoing and in our day to day.
Absolutely. And I know, I think a few years ago, we had Temple Grandin, who's popular in the autism community, and even a lot of the most recent town halls have been in encouraging among employees. Switching gears,
because we really have, we have a lot of, the disability community is really broad. There's a lot of different, aspects, a lot of different ways that disability impacts people. And, we try to make sure that we've got something for everybody, and that everyone feels a sense of belonging, regardless of, whether they have a disability at all. And if they do, what it is. We really want it to be something that everybody has a place in.
Yeah, awesome. Well, now switching gears to the recent Special Olympics World Winter Games in Turin, 2025, which it's a good transition, because just like the inclusive culture that United is building in our Special Olympics movement, as you both saw at the World Winter Games, but then also I know, Carly, you have discovered from your experience at the local level, that inclusive, like what this movement is about the inclusion revolution, and encouraging inclusion is important. I know my mom, after she first saw me compete, she said, if the whole world were like Special Olympics, then there would be no wars. I saw a clip from the opening ceremony in Turin. I think Tim Shriver talked about that you've come to the Special Olympics country, that it's really a supportive, inclusive, accepting cultural. So the Special Olympics World Winter Games in Turin 2025 is a major event. I've gone to the last two World Games in Berlin and Abu Dhabi, and then I was in as a Southern Tribal Global Messenger, the highest athlete leadership role. And then at the World Games in Los Angeles, I produced a daily podcast at those games, and so I've had experience what you both have experienced at the World Games, which is different than at the local or national events. How has United Airlines supported this event, and why is it an important milestone for the partnership?
John, do you want to go ahead?
Sure. So United's role specifically at these games was as a sponsor at the broader level of the games themselves, which helps make the whole thing happen. But we were really specifically there sponsoring the Global Youth Leadership Summit, and had played a bigger role in putting that together, which was really an incredible experience to be part of. We got a chance to, I made some remarks at the opening for that event, met a few of the other sponsors and the leaders for that group. And it was really, impressive to see how, they pair an athlete with a disability and someone without a disability. So it's a very unified program, and they work to, develop leadership plans to come back to wherever they're from. There were people from, all over. I think there were something like 30 different countries represented. And they all develop, their plan to go back where they came from and drive inclusion into their cultures at home. And it was really impressive to see what that translates to for them, what they have been able to in that short time come up with for their pretty solid plans to go back and introduce a unified program at their schools, for example, or work with community organizations in their home cities or countries to just keep the inclusion revolution going.
Awesome. Carly, do you want to add anything?
No, just that John really had a great opportunity to speak at the Global Youth Leadership Summit, and a lot of people came up to him afterwards asking him more questions about how we partner with Special Olympics, and it really sparked some interest in United's role there and the SOSA program, which was a great opportunity to spread the word, as always.
Yeah, I told him, who knows, we may have one of our next SOSAs down the road someplace coming from that very room of the leaders in that summit.
Awesome.
We heard from so many people that they wanted to become a SOSA next. And that was just really cool to be in the room and feel the excitement around the program, and really goes to show what a difference it's made.
Awesome. Yeah, 5 years ago, when we were just getting the SOSA program started in Chicago, none of us knew just how popular or just how impactful the SOSA program is.
Yeah. And I don't think the company knew at the time either what it would grow into, what it's become today. I mean, we're not quite there yet, but we have plans to roll it out to all of our hubs here in the U.S. Some of that is still in the works, and so can't put dates on that, but the planning is definitely in place. And seeing going to Turin and seeing the World Games, puts it in an even broader perspective. We're a global company, and I think we'll be looking at what that means for how we can take a program like this and develop it as we grow as a company around the world as well.
Awesome. Yeah, it'll be impactful to have SOSAs not only in all the U.S. hubs, but also some of the international hubs as well.
And there are some hurdles to jump through to get there, but I don't think it's something we can't take on. But again, can't put a timeline around it because there are other people involved. I mean, with a big company, and especially with our employee organization, we're not really in the driver's seat for that, but we do have a voice, and we do provide some leadership within the company on opportunities like that.
Awesome. And this next part, I'll give you both a chance to kind of share some of your firsthand experience around accessibility and around being at the World Winter Games. I know one thing that you guys got to do that I got to do as well in Berlin was walk in the opening ceremony. When in Berlin, I think I walked in with Aruba, and we had because the Southern Travel Global Messengers were on stage, we practiced and kind of knew where to go. And thinking back at the opening ceremony in Berlin, I realized I think a few others of us, because like we were up in this booth where there's a lot of VIPs, and we walked up the wrong set of stairs where I should have like walked just a few feet to where I was supposed to go. So, but yeah, that's all like kind of in the moment. So I'll give you a few moments now for you both to share or tell us a few stories of what it was like to walk in with athletes in the opening ceremony, as well as how it drew delegations from around the world in support of many countries' leaders, Bridge's commitment to the Special Olympics movement.
Yeah, I can get started. So I had the honor of walking in with the athletes from Latvia, and you could just feel the excitement in the room. We were behind the curtain for a bit while they were holding us there. But once we walked out there, just to see people from around the globe cheering everyone on, there was a friendly amount of competition, of course, but at the end of the day, everyone was there for the same reasons, for the same mission. And you just really felt that in the room. And it was such an honor to be a part of the experience.
And it was so much, I think you, in your head, they put on, an opening ceremony that's a lot like the Olympics that you see on TV. And until you actually go and are part of it, you don't quite realize just how big it really is. I think we were really struck by just the scale of the Special Olympics operation as a whole, but of the games, filling this pretty big stadium in Turin with the athletes and the spectators and the family members and the delegations that were attending there visiting. Was really neat to see. I had the honor of walking in with Indonesia, and I don't look at all Indonesian, and I don't know that they knew who I was, so I think they probably created a little confusion there, but it was a lot of fun. And you share, they were smiling, and they were happy to be there. They were happy to have the support of somebody who was encouraging them on. And so even though there's a language barrier, there's still the emotion and the sense of belonging that I think transcends that. And it was great to be a part of that, and to get to meet some of the people backstage. When we were waiting for our countries to have their turn in the lineup, they had us sort of sitting with a number of other people kind of waiting in a similar position, and I got to meet a man named Bob Beeman, who has been part of the movement since I think the late 1960s, like way back in the day. He still holds the world record for the Olympic long jump, and it was just really neat to see somebody who, at his age, somewhere around 80, is still really dedicated to the cause, and he goes just about every year, it sounds like, and participates, and just amazing to see how it all comes together.
Awesome. And you mentioned Bob. I think that thing's jumping off the. You mentioned Bob Beaming, and who I believe is also a global ambassador, and a number of different roles. And I got to meet him first at the Abu Dhabi World Games, where he gave. I've got it outside of the studio here, where I've got my shoes. He made some custom shoes for Special Olympics at the Healthy Athletes. He gave we got our feet measured, and I still wear those today, which. At the Special Olympics Champions Ball, I didn't wear them last year, but a couple years ago, I think I might have had them on. And then in Berlin, I met him again at a reception. So I've got a few pictures with. Yeah, awesome. Moving on, kind of back to the supporting how United Airlines supported the Global Youth Leadership Summit, which our listeners can go back on this series where we talked with, which you guys got a little sneak peek before we started recording, because I'm pre-recording out of Odo, but you all can go back and hear more in depth about exactly the impact of the Global Youth Leadership Summit. But the Global Youth Leadership Summit is another key event that United Airlines is supporting. How does this initiative align with United's commitment to inclusion, and why is it particularly important for the future of the Special Olympics movement?
I'll start that. The theme for the summit this year, I'm not sure if it's the one that they've used in the past, but their theme was "The future is now," and the sessions and sort of the theme was really around everybody who is in the room, even if they're young, makes a difference, and I think somewhat even more so if they're younger, because their future is really our future for everyone. And so again, it kind of ties back to United's mission of connecting people and uniting the world, making the world a more united place, and doing that through sponsoring events like the summit that encourage people to think about their role in that, and to take some leadership in their communities to make their small part of the world a more inclusive space, which then grows to everyone. Sort of like we do with Bridge within the company itself.
Yeah, and I think the importance there, as you said, is there's no small role in any of this. Everyone in the room really just demonstrated that. And also that passion creates change. When Tim Shriver was talking about the history of Special Olympics, it's just really moving to hear how it all started and how it continues, and is driven forward by the people that were in the room and at the games and beyond that.
Awesome.
You just really see that passion from people, and it makes it there's an excitement in the air. It's just a energizing sort of place to be. Even being a few time zones ahead and having some long days, the enthusiasm and the energy that you just get from anybody or everybody there keeps you going, and never felt like, oh, this is one more thing we need to go to. It was always just a lot of enthusiasm.
There's speaking to that point, there was something that one of the youth leaders in the podcast that I just recorded highlighted that in particular, talking about how it's all about having fun. And Tim Shriver, I had him on this podcast a couple of times, including during the 50th anniversary. We were in the hallway at the Intercontinental Hotel in Chicago, only spot that we could find to record. But when Tim wrote his first book, Fully Alive, which I definitely like, he signed it for me, and I've actually annotated and wrote notes in his entire book, which I think so. Yeah, which surprised him. But one chapter that Tim wrote about how Special Olympics is all about the fun that lasts, and one of Tim's sons had talked about that, and compared to like going to Disney World, where at Disney it's the fun just stays there. But that when it comes to Special Olympics, when you come to a World Games like you both attended, or just any Special Olympics event, it's the fun that lasts.
And there's also so many events. I forget what the statistic somebody told us about it was. that, if you include a lot of the qualifying events and the things that are happening around the world, there's something every few minutes that's happening with Special Olympics. So I mean, the fun really never does end. Just even with the events that Special Olympics does, let alone what people take away from it.
Absolutely, and I think that's one of the stereotypes that I think a lot of people think, and I've even discovered, even looking at the airport, that a lot of people ask, when is the Special Olympics? Because they think it's just one event. They don't realize the movement and that there's so many games and competitions and events happening all year round. Since we are running way behind the schedule, we're going to take a short sponsor break. When we come back, we'll get into some final concluding thoughts as we wrap up. And if and our listeners probably don't care about this behind the scenes note, but for our guest who is backstage waiting for the next episode, I'll show this behind the scenes moment for you all that I deeply apologize that we're running behind schedule here. But yeah, he's giving a thumbs up. So we'll take a short break. When we come back, we'll get into some concluding final thoughts with our guests, Carly and John from United Airlines after this short break. This episode is brought to you by the ComEd Energy Force Ambassador Program, the country's first energy and solar efficiency education program designed for and taught by people with disabilities. Learn more at specialchronicles.com/ComEd. That's specialchronicles.com/ComEd. And the support comes from listeners like you. Please join our supporters with a monthly or one-time donation so we can operate our studio, keep the microphone plugged in, the technology, website, audio, video hosting for this podcast going. So it's free for you to listen or watch. But thank you to all of our supporters. You can join now and support this podcast at specialchronicles.com/give, specialchronicles.com/give, or join and access our bonus content at specialchronicles.com/plus. And with that, I'm going to move to the other layout, John, since Carly had to drop. As we, and I'm skipping over some questions that we can't really speak to, but as we look ahead, in your personal experience working on the partnership with United Airlines and Special Olympics, what has been the most rewarding part of you or for you?
I think the most rewarding part for me is the positivity that everybody involved with it brings, and that shows up in just making the events that we do with Special Olympics so much fun and feel so rewarding. I think that's what really sticks with me is the attitude that everybody can participate. Everybody's got something to bring, and that the future is only going to be more inclusive than it is today. And I think everybody who's involved shares that enthusiasm and interprets it maybe in their own different way. And it's exciting to see how they take that back and how it shows up in things that they do, like what we do within Bridge in trying to make United a more inclusive place for employees and customers with disabilities. And so, the overlap of the mission and just seeing how how many different people can have a role in making that happen is exciting.
Awesome. I love that. And before we get to the final question, do you have any, I know that the past 47 minutes has flown, no pun intended, has flown by. Do you have any final thoughts on your overall time here today on the Special Chronicles podcast that you'd like to share with our listeners?
Wow, it's the first time I've done your podcast. The first time I've actually done a podcast like this, so it's been a bit of an experience. But no, I mean, I think I take from it that like all of us, you've got a real passion for this too, and this is how you employ it, and it's great to see how that shows up. It's great to be a part of that. I really appreciate the opportunity to share a little bit about what we do and talk about how it fits with what we're all trying to do together, which is make the world a more belonging and inclusive place for everybody.
Awesome. Well, we'll have to have you maybe later on this fall. We'll have to have you back on to share a little bit more about your
Sure.
story in the disability community.
And we'll be able to talk a little bit more about some of the plane pulls that we're getting ready to put on this year.
Yeah.
And so there'll be some opportunities. As the company is kind of solidifying what our contract for the sponsorship looks like going forward with Special Olympics, that's part of why there were a few questions that we couldn't really address yet, because I know that some of those things are still being worked through. So maybe when we come back, we'll be able to talk about a few of the things that we're hoping to try to take to the next level once we get some of those things squared away.
Awesome. So we got one final question that we want to leave our listeners with, and we've got a bumper. So let's go ahead and roll that bumper.
We're not just athletes.
We are the ambassadors of an uprising.
Peaceful protesters.
In a rebellion against anyone
who has a fear of difference.
Difference. Our demands are
equality,
dignity,
and the recognition of our
shared humanity.
We will not stop
or accept anything less.
Today, our world is
more divided than ever.
And coming together has never been more urgent.
The revolution
is inclusion.
Find out more at jointherevolution.org.
And just like I do with all the guests, ever since I came back from the 2019 World Games in Abu Dhabi, I've been concluding with one final question. We don't just want our listeners to listen to us. Yes, we want them to listen to the podcast. The bigger part is we want our listeners to bring inclusion back into their communities, workplaces, schools, into society. And this question will help our listeners to do that. And so, John, if Coldy was still here, would get her answer as well. But we'll have to have her back on as well. So, John, what does inclusion mean to you?
Yeah, thank you. I was trying to think of something that may not be what everybody has told you before, so I'm hoping that I'm not being repetitive. But I think inclusion really means challenging your own assumptions in a lot of cases. It means not being limited by beliefs that you may have brought with you or things that you might have heard about something, but recognizing that there's something unique and there's something exciting and encouraging and about what everybody brings to the table, and challenging the assumptions that you might have had about what that was, lets you see it in a different way, and lets them be themselves and lets you be yourself, and lets you work together to get things done in a way that allows everybody's unique perspectives to be respected, and to show up in the finished product, whatever that is. So yeah, I'd say really, to me, I'd bring it back to about challenging assumptions and recognizing the value of diverse perspectives.
Awesome. Perfect way to wrap up this episode. A few final plugs that we want to remind you all listening in. You can shop our merchandise store of Disabled Voices Matter merch. We have t-shirts, hoodies, coffee mugs. 60% of the profits will go back to Special Chronicles. You can shop now at specialchronicles.com/shop. That's specialchronicles.com.
I'll have to get a mug for my next appearance.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I actually still have to get a mug myself.
Yeah.
I don't. So tap that follow button, folks. Special Chronicles, Apple, Spotify, YouTube, so you don't miss a new episode. You can go back on this recap of Turin2025 series and hear from the chief of sport and competition at Special Olympics, as well as Southern Tribal Global Messenger Grace, as well as a few athletes competed in alpine skiing, snowshoeing, a dance boat, a coach, as well, and then hear from a few of the youth leaders about the Global Youth Leadership Summit. And you can go back and listen to the last episode. That is the next episode that I'll be coding, but the last episode that you all are going to hear with Sean Ferguson about the Global Coalition for Inclusion, and then hear from one of the volunteers and board members who has started volunteering in college, and now his son is volunteering in college. And so tons of exciting content for you all to go. Thank you again, John. It's such a joy to have you and Carly on.
Thank you, Daniel. It's been an honor, and it's been great to be with you today.
And until then, I'll see you all next week, same time, same place, right here on SpecialChronicles.com. And until then, remember, choose to include. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Special Chronicles podcast. Our podcast was produced by Daniel Smikowski on the Special Chronicles Network. Follow Special Chronicles on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and YouTube. Subscribe, rate, and review Special Chronicles on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Our website, SpecialChronicles.com, where you can stream our archives of over 500 episodes for absolutely for free. Also, there's a list of our favorites, original series, award-winning columns, and blogs. And sign up for our newsletter to receive exclusive bonus content delivered to your inbox. Again, SpecialChronicles.com. Special Chronicles is hosted by Podbean Podcast Hosting. Our live streams are powered by StreamYard. Thanks, as always, to our business manager, Adam Smukowski, who always encourages us to never give up. I'm Daniel Smukowski, back next week with more stories.
Special Chronicles, giving respect and a voice to people with special needs.